Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, we're going to talk about the dress watch and the sort of the archetypical dress watch is the Patek Philippe Calatrava. All of them from the history of Calatravas, Patek Philippe Calatravas, has always been sort of when you think of a dress watch, that's the dress watch. And the characteristics of a dress watch are four things that I found. There are a lot of different definitions, but these are the four that I found that seem to fit. And we're going to take a look at some dress watches. Some more or less fit this all of these characteristics. First of all, they tend to have a slim profile. Second, they have a smaller case, a little smaller than your sports watches or some of the bigger ones. They have a leather strap instead of a metal strap, and they usually have a precious metal case out of gold or platinum, typically. Now, this particular Calatrava is manually wound. It has a gold applied hour markers. Those are the indexes are gold. It's a yellow gold one. The case back is solid. This is another typical thing. 37 millimeter case. The thickness is 7.68 millimeters. Then the strap is the shiny chocolate brown alligator with a prong buckle. $20,870. This is the MSRP price. I have an older Calatrava, and it has no second hand, just the hour and a minute hands, and works great as a dress watch. What is a dress watch supposed to do? Well, it's sort of like a piece of jewelry for guys, but it's not supposed to be loud or intrusive, but it is supposed to be interesting. And one of my favorite watches that I think is interesting without ostentation is this Van Cleef & Arpels. The French is for hours here and hours elsewhere. And it's a very simple watch. This particular one is made of white gold. It's 42 millimeters, which is sort of big for a dress watch. But the way the bar lugs are at the top and the bottom give it a sort of an old-fashioned kind of look to it. On the left, you have a minute retrograde. And then at the top and the bottom, you have jumping hours. And so it's an interesting watch. If you look at the time, it will show you in two different places simultaneously that very easy to look at, very ingenious design. The jumping hours and the retrograde minutes are by Agenor, and it also of course, it has a dual time zone. This is another thing about dress watches, especially because they're made out of precious metal, is they're expensive. This one is $24,500, but one of my favorite watches, and dress watches are anything else. Now, this watch, I have this in two different mediums. One is titanium, and the other is gold. Now, this is the titanium one. It's called the Bulgari Octo Finissimo Automatic, and it's thin, a very thin watch. Recently, it won an award I think it was for the men's watch. It's just a nice dress watch. Different versions of this look pretty dressy to begin with, very simple dial. One of the interesting things is that the small seconds are about 7 o'clock rather than 9 or 3 o'clock. Has an interesting feature. In titanium, it's $12,800. The street price is about $8,000, about $8,500, right in that neighborhood. The gold one, though, same watch but in gold, is $26,300. So if you want to have a dress watch that's not in a precious metal. You can save a lot of money on it. Okay, this next one is another one I like a lot. Piaget Altoplano. This one is 15,200. Again, not cheap, but not quite as much. 38 millimeter in rose gold, and you can see it's one of these. It's understated, but a good looking watch, and this is what a dress watch is supposed to be. Now these two represent sort of what I consider to be a more popular watch brand, Rolex and Jaeger-LeCoultre. The Rolex Cellini, again, not the most popular Rolex model, has I think a very nice dress watch in the Cellini. It's called Cellini Time. This one's 39 millimeters in Ever Rose Gold, $15,200 with a gaiter strap to it. The other one is a Master Ultra Thin date called Master Ultra Thin Date is the name of it. And this one is in pink gold. It has a date window at 6 o'clock. With most dress watches, you don't have date, but they're not going to kill you, okay? Especially when they're done the way this Master Ultra Thin has been done. Okay, these next two are, again, going more toward what you might call the more traditional watch brands. The first one on the left is Vacheron Constantin Patrimony manual winding, and on the right is Jules Audemars Extra Thin. Now, the interesting thing about the Patrimony is a lot like the Calatrava. Here you have a hour and minute. There's no second hand. On my particular Calatrava, it's the same way. It looks very similar to this. 40 millimeter, a little bigger, 18 karat, 5-in pink gold, $17,800. Now, the Jules Audemars Extra Thin, this one again is a little bigger, 41 millimeters, 18 karat pink gold, automatic, 26,000. Now, this looks like a big jump, and I think it is, compared to both the Patek Philippe and the Vacheron Constantin. But the thing about this, it's a thin, extra thin automatic. And so it's the kind of thing it's the kind of watch that would be also sort of a everyday executive office watch as well. Now, this next watch, this is a one. This is my H. Moser Endeavor Center Seconds. This one is the Venture Concept Vanta Black. The Vanta Black, for some reason, is a copyright black by H. Moser at Sea. And this one is 39 millimeters, hand wound, 18 karat, 5-in red gold. This one's 25,000. This watch to me is another ideal, near perfect dress watch. It just, I don't know, with very little, it just has a great deal of impact. I mean, it's boom, there it is as a watch. It's nothing fancy about it. It has hour and minute hand, and it's a heck of a dress watch. I imagine one can, if one looks around, one could find a better price on that, but as a watch, for a dress watch, this is one I really like. Of course, I'm wearing one very similar to it. This is an Endeavor instead of a Venture, but still, same idea, same company. Now, here, to me, this is another watch that almost defines dress watches. And this is a Breguet Classic. This one in particular, the Extra Thin Classic, again, it's automatic. This is what surprised me about it. It's 38 millimeters, a good size, 3 hertz, which I really like, 17,800. And I think these, you can probably find these on the secondary market for considerably less, but they're really wonderful watches. The one on the left is, I believe it's rose gold or yellow gold. The one on the right is white gold. And they're both have that sort of the classic, if you will, classic, really good looking, I think, in terms of a good dress watch. Now, going down, let's say more of a budget, more affordable watches. Here are a couple. One is the Hermes. It's called Slim de Hermes Manufacture. Now, it's called Manufacture because it has a VMF 5401. VMS is Vacher. Hermes owns 25% of Hermes, and so they figure, well, since they own a big hunk of it, it's their manufacturer. They had a special font made. This is a font that is owned by Hermes. To me, it's a great looking watch. Now, it may be a little too informal for a lot of dress watches, but I think it would be, it's interesting enough that as a dress watch, I think it would pass okay. Now, if you're on more of a budget, I think the Star Legacy automatic date 39 millimeter by Montblanc is one I think you could get away with as a dress watch. Roman numerals tend to have sort of an aura of more formality, I think. At least in my mind, they do. And this one's a good price at $29.10. It's not an expensive watch, but it has the sort of good-looking features to it that aren't screaming, look at me. And it's got a little date down at 6 o'clock. They could probably do without for a dress watch, but it's an option. I think that again, if you're something more on a slight budget. Now, this last one, this is on a real budget. I found this one. It's called Oris Art Blakey. Art Blakey is a drummer. This watch, I was looking around at dress watches, and this was actually recommended by someone else. And I looked at it, and the first thing I thought of when I saw the dial on this was an Ahsoka. I thought, my God, this looks like an Ahsoka. It's not, and it's not as an attempt to be, but to me, it's a neat watch. It's $1,200, which is not a great deal especially compared to the other ones we've been looking at. But I think it'll work very well as a dress watch. It has a simple beauty to it, I think is important in a dress watch. It's not a precious metal. I don't know if it's particularly thin or not, but it's just, this was sort of selected myself and this other guy who thought the same thing. This could be a cool one and very affordable. Well, listen, that's my take on dress watches. This one would, I don't know whether this would count or not as a dress watch because it's sort of thick and it's a 7-day watch. It just has, it's just a 3-hand watch, but you know, it would pass as a dress watch, I think, on 3 of the 4 criteria. It's a little fat. That's one thing that it wouldn't work with. Listen, so that's my take on dress watches. I'd like to hear your comments and your thoughts about this. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. And you're invited to subscribe if you'd like.